It's time for another Dice Tower review with Zee Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Grimslingers here, which is a card game set in a fantastical West setting. So they call it the Forgotten West. It's got sci-fi, it's got magic, fantasy, it's got sort of everything mixed in there. It's very cool, very interesting setting. In this box you have two game modes. You're going to have a versus game mode and you're going to have a co-op game mode. Both of them use largely the same cards, and at the center of both, at the core, is this rock, paper, scissors mechanism, okay? So that should give you an idea of what we're about to take a look at here. Let's dive into an overview, then we'll come on back and I'll tell you what I think of it. To play basic duels, everybody's going to get a Grimslinger. You're going to get a card to keep track of your life. You're going to get a little robotic helper with a track of his own to keep track of EP, which is energy points. You are going to get targeting cards showing your color on the back and your targets on the other side, the other players in the game. And you are going to get a set of basic spell cards: ice, fire, wind, water, lightning, and earth. Now these work in a very rock, paper, scissors kind of way. So you have ice, fire, and wind, where they say right on there, ice beats wind, fire beats ice. The other ones, of course, refer to the other parts of that rock, paper, scissors circle. And then they also do something, typically giving damage and reducing other players' energy points or giving you energy points. So target takes 2 damage and must deduct 2 energy points. Target takes 2 damage and must immediately discard 1 active card, meaning a card from their hand. Target takes 1 damage and gets rid of some other cards. Takes 2 damage and you gain 2 energy points. And so, you know, these are always the same. Every earth card is the same. However, this sphere of rock, paper, scissors and this sphere of rock, paper, scissors have nothing to do with one another. And so fights between these are going to take a little bit of a more convoluted resolution. I'll get to that in just a second. A round in the game goes like this. There are several parts to the round. At the beginning of the round, the first thing you can do is you can do one of these special abilities on your little robot there, which is you can reload, which means putting 4 discarded cards, spells that have been set aside, back into your hand. You can purge, which means get rid of some spells to earn some energy points, and those have costs printed right on there. So you're going to be manipulating this track in order to have the cards in your hand that you need. Once that's done, you can also do a little purge ability, which is more powerful. On this side of the robot, you are then going to typically pick a card, pick a target, put it face down on the table, all right? So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then the other players are going to do the same thing. So let's just say for now, this player picks this and whatever, and this player over here is going to pick... this is red. Yeah, let's pick the red player there. We wouldn't tell them this, obviously. And that one. All right. Then at this point, once everyone's played the cards, if you want to back off, you can say, okay, I'm actually going to pass this round. You get 2 energy points back. But let's assume no one's doing that now. We reveal all of these things, and we see what happens. Your objective is to knock out your opponents. So that's what you're trying to do by giving them damage, all right? So both of these players are targeting red, which is over here, and this player is targeting green. These spells all have a speed, a resolution number, or RN. You'll come to find out very shortly that the game has a bajillion abbreviations for not really a very good reason, but it does. And so first thing we need to figure out is if this interaction between these two players goes first, or if this player who no one targeted is going to do their own thing first. So we roll a die. For this interaction here, the speed is 4. For this, the speed is 5. This happens first. This player is going to read their card. Target takes 2 damage and must deduct 2 EP. And so this player takes 2 damage, deducts 2 EP. And then you can read the fun little writings that are on these, like no pain, no gain, as they say. Or over here, the little robot says, exclamation, you're doing great. Wonderful. Once that's done, then we go to these players' resolution over here. And so wind and ice do interact with one another, okay? So it says ice beats wind. So guess what? Nothing for you. They put that aside, and I do my ice thing, which is the same as that one over there, all right? If those two cards were not in the same sphere, let's say lightning, which has nothing to do with ice, then these players would have to go to this other resolution method, which is using these cards that look like just a regular deck of cards, and they're going to have to play a sort of an abbreviated version of blackjack. Here's how this works. They each get a card. Whoever has the highest card can push or hold, which again is more terms that for things that are very commonly known, but they had to pick their own terms for it. So this player wants to push. They flip a card. They have 9. It's back to this player who will play again. They are at 4. Back to this player who is now at 9. They can hold because what you're trying to do is beat the other player without busting, which they call something exhausting. I think that's what it is. And if you go over 11, you have exhausted. So you want to hit 11, which they call hitting the apex or something, and then you're solid. That's what you want to do. In fact, you'll do a little extra damage if you can apex. So this player's just going to hold for right now. This player is going to maybe push their luck a little bit, and they're at 6 right now. The cards in here, by the way, 1 through 5, twice each. This player is still good. This player might keep going. That is 10. No, that's 11 for them. Great. So this player could now push, or they could stop. Here's the thing, and why you'd want to stop before exhausting, before going over 11. If they stop right now, they simply lose. It's the other player who gets to do damage to them. Their card is discarded. If they go over 11, then this card, any damage it does, is doubled. So this player might just say, yeah, okay, I'm done. You know, you win. They back off. They both hold in turn, and that's over. And so it's the ice that goes off. This player's card is gone. All right? And that's it. That's basically wash, rinse, repeat. These cards are put aside. You get the targeting back, and you do it again every now and then, doing a reload to get some cards back in your hand, hoping you don't die. If you die, you're out. You keep going until a single person is left. If you do this with 2 players only, by the way, you're going to be doing this a lot. All right? This goes all the way up to 6 players. You can play free-for-all. You can play 2-on-2. But it's all basically the same thing. It's manage your energy points, hope your life doesn't drop, and then play rock, paper, scissors with the other players, hoping to figure out what you think they're going to do, cancel them, hit them, and that's it. That should give you kind of an idea of how this works. However, this is, again, introductory duels. You can add several different things to this, and you can kind of mix and match, okay? One thing you can add to this is these cards here, which give you sort of a special identity and a special power in the game, where you can be a vampire, you can be a zombie-style character, you can be a dirty cheat, I guess. You can be some sort of demon. This is the demon one, right? Yeah. And so each of these is going to set your starting HP and EP, and it's going to give you some special power in the game. So for instance, let me find some of these here. The Hell's Fury, the demon there, says, and there's 2 of each, by the way, says that during the standoff phase for 2 EP, any DMG you take this turn will be added to any element spell you play on the next turn. Okay. And then you have also the spell flare here for the Witchborn, which says, during the standoff phase, you may spend 2 EP to increase the NV of your next spell's FX by 1 and reduce its RN by 2. Got all that? Good. So that's how those work. That's one thing you can add. Another thing you can add is these new spells, which are really, really neat stuff. And these are gonna add a lot of flavor to the game. Everybody gets 2. You can draft them, or you can roll for them and then look through them. Again, there's like 4 different ways to do any little thing in this game. But you basically have 2 more of these in your hand, including the basic ones. You can then play these. You have to usually pay energy points to play them, and they do all sorts of stuff. Some of them go off when you, play them as a normal spell. Some of them go off out of turn. Lots of going on there. And then besides all that, you got items. These items here that you can, at the beginning of your turn, you can draw some of these. If you choose to not do any of the reloading and all of that stuff, then these are going to do a bunch of stuff. And even the manual warns you that, hey, if you want a semblance of balance, these are pretty swingy. They don't say it that way, obviously, but they say that these are pretty swingy cards. They're going to do some wild and wacky stuff. So that's it for this mode. I'm going to now wipe all this away, and I'm going to show you the basically whole other game that comes in this box. This is the co-op mode in the game, which the game also calls Tall Tales, and you're going to be all together going through a story, and you can even play solitaire, in fact. You're going to be using this book here, the story booklet, Valley of Death, to go through and discover a little bit more about the world, what's happening in it, and go on little quests and things like that. You have to fight different monsters, encounter different situations, make different choices, discard specific cards, all of that stuff. In this mode, you are going to have a level tracker underneath your character here, and you are going to level up. You're going to gain new powers. You have a hand size limitation in this one. There's a few more things going on in this mode, but again, the core is largely going to be the same. So I'm not going to spoil any of the story for you. I do want to give you a quick look here, so just so you see how much there is in this just half of the game. So there's all of this. They give you the setup there. They tell you how everything works. There's the map. There is the parts of the chapters and parts, how the book works, resolution of everything, how leveling works. There you go. Defeats at all the different kinds of, there's, again, a lot. So I'm just going to show you very quickly here what a combat would look like, assuming I would move from a place like this to a place with combat with the little red circle. Then I'm going to deal with combat. I would roll a die. It tells me what I'm encountering. I check over here. It says that for 4, I am doing the Dune Worm, and so I would grab that. These cards are going to get shuffled into this deck here, which is always in play. Those are like, general creature cards. Shuffle this up, and then I play against this creature here. On the back, it tells me it's HP and EP, and I'm going to use these 2 cards over here to track that. And so, let me see, what is it actually? 7 and 5 for a solitaire game. And so I would do 7 and 5. And the little arrows would point at what it needs to be, okay? Then I shuffle up their deck, I put it on the table, all that stuff. I pick my own card, they pick their card, which is just top decked. We flip it, I flip mine, we see what happens. I try to kill this thing before it kills me. That's the general idea there, okay? Again, I'm glossing over an incredible amount of stuff here, a little minutia, but that gives you a general idea of what's going on. And then you keep reading the book. And so, not that one, the other book. And then the next story point happens, and it tells you, okay, now travel over here, read that encounter. There's page reference numbers on here. Each setting of that is going to be a nice long sort of session with several steps to get you all the way to the end of that chapter. I think I'm going to call it there because there's simply too much else going on to really dive into all the little things. By the way, I do want to mention the characters. When you fight them, they do get a little modifier there. So they are slightly different each time. Even the worm will have a slight modification each time. It's not just the same worm, okay? So that's it. All right. Let's go back up top because I want to talk about this. So I'll see you at the top of the table here, and let me tell you what I think about this one. Whew, okay, so there you have it. There's a lot in this box, a lot I had to gloss over, but let me dive right in with my thoughts here. And in fact, what I just said, there's a lot in here, is one of my main issues with this game. There's a lot in here that's normally good, except when it's wrapped around rock, paper, scissors, and when it is convoluted rock, paper, scissors, okay? And it's not, I understand that there are more choices here to be made than in 1, 2, 3, shoot, okay? Because I can see what you're doing, the cards you've played are open information. I can choose to figure out which ones you're still holding and try to play one that's going to cancel the one you're about to play for the competitive mode, for the versus mode. That's all fine, but at the end of the day, the biggest issue I have with this game is that it is rock, paper, scissors with a bajillion abbreviations, which are very annoying. I have to reference this thing incessantly just to figure out what, you know, RN and DNC and all that. I mean, you know, that's annoying. And so there is all this stuff that all has 4 different ways to do the same thing and little rules everywhere. And it all eventually all trickles down to rock, paper, scissors. I have a problem with games that do that. And so I don't really like that. But anyway, let's take a step back here and let me split the 2 different modes and talk about them individually. Versus system, the versus mode of playing. One-on-one and entry level, meaning without any of those 3 other things I showed you, is pointless. I would say avoid that entirely, or maybe like try it just half for a game or something to figure out how it works. It is gonna have a bunch of, you don't roll the die in 2-player, but it's gonna have a bunch of basically the blackjack thing, which is cool. And in fact, it's one of the things in the game I like, except when I have to do it every single round, every card play, okay? And so I don't like that mode. You add some stuff in there, and yeah, it gets a little bit better, especially when you have some of the other spells where the RN, which is the resolution number, isn't always 9. All those basic spells, they always trigger at 9, so they're always at the same speed. So you're going to be rolling the die and playing blackjack a lot with 2 players. However, once you go to a much larger number of players, then it's insane the amount of chaos and pointlessness that abounds. You are just going to be picking someone randomly, smacking them in the face. Things are just going to happen, you know. This game goes up to 6. If you get Grimslingers Duels, which I'll be doing a standalone review of, by the way, then you can add 2 players to that. And at that point, you're just inviting chaos for the sake of chaos. You know, there's not going to be much going on. So that mode also, before I move on, 15 to 30 minutes, that's a lie. It's not going to take 15 to 30 minutes. It's going to take much longer, probably. So that mode is interesting at 3. It's interesting at 4, maybe. More than that, too many people. And at 2, especially vanilla, it's pointless. Co-op mode, I think, is much better in this game. It's got the solitaire mode is interesting. You can sit down and enjoy the story. You can travel to the different places. You can read the story in the book, which is well written, riddled with typos, and there's typos there. You know, resurrect, yeah, and lots of apostrophes where there shouldn't be and stuff. I mean, it's a pet peeve, but spell check this. Like, you know, have someone read it who speaks English. So all of that is problematic, but it's a much better mode than versus mode. It is going to give you a little more going on. And I'm going to spin this into some positives here, it's going to delve into the world that's been built here. And I'll say this, artwork in this game, world building that's been done here is fantastic. Fantastic. This is unbelievable. I love the artwork. I love the setting. I love these characters. I wanted to like this game a lot. I am really into this stuff. And then the game takes rock, paper, scissors and complicates it and makes me look up a bunch of stuff and gives me steps upon steps upon steps when it all eventually is just rock, paper, scissors, you know. Anyway. So that's my big, you know, gripe there. Co-op is better, and playing solitaire is all right. I think you're gonna get your money's worth if you play through this, even solitaire, and you are okay with putting up with all of the, you know, all of the minutia of the game. Fighting the monsters is more interesting than I think fighting against other players. And while I think you're probably not going to go back and replay the game, you're going to get a solid amount of sessions out of what's going on here. So I'll recommend it for that. You know, if you are interested in getting a game that's a little bit story-driven, it's got some amazing artwork, some beasties, some bizarre encounters, some interesting reading, then yeah, I think you could enjoy this. And I did enjoy that until I had to start looking up things. And things are unclear, and the FAQ fails me, right? So there's all of that. I will mention before wrapping this up that I just found this out too, there's going to be a second version of this. I just came across. They have a new manual online, which I did not look at. This is the version I'm reviewing. And they have apparently clarifications of things, which I did look at. It's a lot, by the way, of clarifications. It was considerable. So this feels like a first effort for the designer, which I believe it is. Clearly not his first effort at artwork. This is also the person who did the artwork, which is excellent. But the whole thing has an amateurish feel to it. Not the world building, the game designing part. So I'm hoping that a second version is really going to improve this, but I think it's just going to be a clarification of what's here. And that my very central and core issue is still that the game's too simple for how complex it is. I know that sounds weird. I mean, my decisions, what's happening, is too simple for how much you want me to learn and puzzle out of this thing, okay? So I'll play through the story one time. If I were you, that's what I would do if you're really captivated by the world. But then I think you're going to be done with this one. So the replayability I don't think is going to be there. That's pretty much how I feel about this one. I've complained a lot on this video. I don't mean to pummel drive this game. I think I'm more peeved at the fact that I wanted to like it so much because it is so beautiful. And it is such an interesting world, but the whole game just did not really work for me. Co-op's okay, you know. I would rate that like a 5 or a 6 maybe. I think the versus mode, playing, you know, the basic versus mode is pointless, and then playing with too many people, pointless. The whole thing doesn't really work for me. So that's it for me. I'm hoping, here's my hope and my plead to this designer, make more games. Because I want a great game in this setting. I want more of your artwork. I want to see other games set in the Forgotten West that you've come up with here. Just not a rock, paper, scissors game. You know, I want it to be a game that has real interesting strategy in it. A game with more to do, to explore, with just, I want more, you know, and this isn't going to give it to me. So that's it for me. That is Grimslingers, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you watching the video, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.